Now, the memos describe former FBI Director Comey's private interactions with President Trump. And the big question is whether Comey leaked any classified information to the press. Here's what he said a short time ago after the memos were made public.
I'm sure the special counsel is considering my recollection of those events, which are reflected in these memos. But it's my recollection that is the evidence that will be used if there was ever a proceeding. These would be to show that I wrote it down at the time, sort of to bolster the credibility of my recollection.
Now, to sort this out and tell us what's inside, let's bring in Republican Congressman Chris Stewart, a member of the House Intel Committee. Congressman.
Good evening.
Give us the take.
Well, you know what it shows me, and we haven't had a chance to go through all of it, and most people haven't, but it shows me that the Director Comey was dishonest with the president from the very beginning.
How so?
And continues to be. Well, for example, he should have gone in and said, Mr. President, we have this a piece of political garbage. It was funded by the DNC. It was funded by Hillary Clinton. Pay no attention to it, and if anyone brings it up, we'll refute it. We'll say it's not credible. He said later on it was salacious, unverified. He should have said that in stronger words. Instead, what he said to the president is, the Russians are reporting, as if this was a credible Russian intelligence operation, when he knew that it wasn't. He knew that this wasn't some formal document the Russian intelligence had created and put together. It was put together by Hillary Clinton and the DNC, who used a foreign agent, by the way, who used second- and third-hand information from unidentified Russians that we don't even know who they were. He should have been honest with the president. And by the way, he's being dishonest with the president continuing. He says that he thinks it's possible that the president is under some type of shadow, that the Russians have some information.
Well, he kind of walked that back a little bit
Well,
today.
He should have walked it back because it's possible.
That was outrageous.
Well,
I mean, it's outrageous for a former FBI
director. It's possible he's got information on you and on me and Director Comey. But that's the position he's taken on this. He's trying to cast as deep a shadow as he possibly could over this president.
Well, memos to the file are invariably self-serving documents. I remember when I was a white-collar criminal defense attorney, you always look at those and like, let's go over what really, okay, you're not going to write a memo to the file that makes you look like a fool or makes you look like a liar or makes you look like you're misrepresenting the facts. You're going to write a memo to the file that memorializes the events in a way that usually will make you look the best, in the best light. There was an interesting part of this, one of these memos. It's not very long. You have the unredacted, redacted version. This is what he says in one of the memos. He said, I had dinner with President Trump in the green room at the White House last night at 6:30 p.m. I explained that he could always count on me to tell the truth. I said, I don't do sneaky things. I don't leak. I don't do weasel moves. Yeah. What was that release in the memo to the Columbia professor to release it to the media? What was that, leaking, or was that just, tiddlywinks?
Well, and it's not the way a FBI director should respond or should act, and to be dishonest about it. And I got to tell you, Laura, too, that the testimony that the director has provided before the committee in closed sessions does not comport at all with some of the things that he's saying publicly right now.
Now, you can't discuss this because it's a closed session,
that's right.
Or is it already out there?
No, this hasn't been, but we hope it will be, and it should be. And by the way, this is another good example of information that should have been released the first time we asked. Why in the world does the Department of Justice feel like it's their responsibility to protect this person rather than their responsibility would be to be open and honest with the American people?
Now, there's another part of this memo where President Trump, rightly, as he did in the campaign, calls into question Andrew McCabe. And at that point, he says, about this point, he asked me again about your guy McCabe. And that does sound like Trump. Yeah. And whether he was going to be okay. I again affirmed Andy's ability and professionalism and said the president would come to see him and benefit from both. At that point, he already knew that Andrew McCabe probably had some problems, yet he was telling the president that McCabe was fine. Yeah,
and which brings me to another question, and that is, how is it that the director of the FBI had surrounded himself with what we know now are political hacks? Andrew McCabe, Mr. Pete Stark, Lisa Page, others. Look, the FBI isn't full of progressives. It's not full of liberal activists. And yet, there around the director, it sure seemed like he had selected and advanced and promoted people that certainly had a different view than many Americans.
Are you going to bring Comey back up?
We sure hope so. And
how are you going to make that happen?
Well, he's going to be. We're going to request that he come and speak before the committee, and I expect.
What if he gives you the Heisman?
Well, I was just going to say, I expect he's going to decline. I can't imagine he's going to be
Maybe you should just hang out in one of the green rooms upstairs, because he's pretty much at MSNBC. I think he has a little binky and a little sleeping bag up there. He's staying up there a lot. So you should just go up there and interview him.
He's been pretty effective at selling his book. There's no doubt about it. But, you know, this is not about his book. This is about learning the truth and having him be accountable for some of the things that he said. Again, I don't expect he's going to be banging on our door and volunteering to come. But if he doesn't, then we'll...
But why won't he? He's a very smart guy. University of Chicago Law School, incredible career in the government. I mean, he's a smart guy. If he can't withstand questioning from you, Congressman, and some of these other guys, he goes on with all these tough guy journalists. I mean, he can't withstand your questions.